like to welcome everybody to the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe Council meeting. It's Monday, January the 13th at 7 p.m. and we're here in the Adelaide Metcalfe Township office. Everybody is accounted and for here tonight, so we've got a full house. So I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Could I have a motion to open the meeting? Moved by Councillor Kingma, second by Councillor Brody. All in favor? That's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none. You've had time to go through the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, then can we have a motion to approve the agenda for January 13th, 2025 as presented? Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, you've had the minutes of the previous two meetings, the one on December 16th and then the other one regarding our budget on the December 23rd. Are there any errors or omissions? Okay, could I have a recommendation that the minutes of the Adelaide Metcalfe Council held on December 16th, 2024 be adopted as printed? Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Brody. All in favor? And that's carried. We also have the recommendation that the minutes of the Adelaide Metcalfe Council held on December 23rd, 2024 be adopted as printed. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, is there anything in the consent agenda you want pulled out? If not, we have a recommendation that items 6A through 6C listed under the heading of consent agenda for January 13th be adopted as recommended. Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is correspondence. We have from the Township of Terrence Bay. They're asking for, they have a resolution asking us to support it. It's regarding Billy Bishop Airport support. We have a request from the town of Puslinch to support their resolution regarding Tampo letter regarding pre-budget announcement. From the municipality of Kincardine, they are requesting support for a resolution regarding property tax implications, the non-market valuation of electricity. And from the town of Kearney, we have requests to support a resolution regarding More Homes Built Faster Act, Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act. I actually would like to support that. I think that speaks to it supports the letter that was written that I wrote and on behalf of council that was sent to Calandra, Minister Calandra, asking him to consider retiring farmer houses and things of that nature. This town of Kearney, what they're discussing is one thing, for example, is ARUs that they're not really permitted in a rural setting. They're only in urban centers. So I would actually like to support that. Is there anyone else that would? Okay. So I'll move it and Betty Ann will second it. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And the last one from the city of Woodstock is regarding child welfare service funding. Okay. So we have a recommendation that council receive and file correspondence 7A, B, C, and E. Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up are our staff reports. The first item are the tender results regarding the Two Hill Drain. And our drainage superintendent, Andrew Neely, is not here tonight. So in his place, we'll have his boss, the public works manager, Coulter Cahill, present that report.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clark. This one's fairly straightforward. The notice of the tender for the reconstruction of the Two Hill Drain was issued November 28th, 2024, and it closed December 19th, 2024. Van Bree Infrastructure came in at the lowest. They were $237,990. The total cost for this project is under the engineer's pre-tender cost estimate of $276,890. by $38,900. The recommendation tonight would be that council approve the tender received from Van Bree Infrastructure in the amount of $237,990 plus HST for the reconstruction of the Two Hill Drain.
Okay, are there any questions for Coulter? Seeing none, then he has read that recommendation. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Kingma, seconded by Counselor McKinnon, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, next up, item 8B is are the bid results for the self-contained breathing apparatus, and we'll turn this part of the meeting over to our chief, Dan Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through you to Council, October 22nd, the meeting of Council approved the pre-budget purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus. The SCBA was identified in our 5-year budget scheduled to be renewed in 2025. And henceforth, the RFP 2024-08 was issued through our online platforms through bids and tenders with collaboration with Middlesex County. It opened on November the 6th and closed on November 26th when we received 5 bids. The proposal was issued in compliance with the township's purchase procurement policy. And the fire department then performed an extensive evaluation process with 2 phases. And when we went through phase 1, 2 companies moved on to phase 2. And they were M&L Supply, which supplied Scott Air Packs, M3M, and AJ Stone with MSA G1s. In phase 2, the demos, the companies were brought to the fire hall, and we put it through a process of experienced firefighters and officers. And we had a maze set up at the office or at the in the fire hall that firefighters were able to actually put them on and get a real feel for them for the whole process. And based on the proposals received, AJ Stone was weighted with a score of 89.4%, and M&L Supply was weighted at 84.4%. That being said, based on the proposals received, the total cost for the self-contained breathing apparatus was $233,333. Sorry. AJ Stone was showing the best results. That being said, I'm recommending that I'm being authorized to direct the award for the request for proposal for $233,033 to AJ Stone. Be happy to answer any questions or comments.
Does anybody have any questions for Dan? Counselor Kingma.
Yeah, through the mayor, a couple of quick questions. When can we see these SCBA units delivered? And secondly, do our mutual aid partners have roughly the same things?
Thank you, Councillor Kingma. That's a great question. We're told through AJ Stone that we will have the new packs within 6 to 8 weeks. And once our training has been given to us, and we'll probably have the air packs on the trucks by 1st of March, I believe. And yes, our Strathroy Caradoc has gone with MSA. They've had them for about 2 years now. I'm hearing great results there. And as well as Southwest Middlesex, Glencoe, and Wardsville also have the same air pack. So in a mutual aid situation, it would be great to be able to use our air bottles throughout the systems.
Okay, any other questions for Dan? Okay, seeing none, then we have a recommendation that the fire chief be authorized and directed to award the request for proposal number AM-2024-08 in the amount of $233,033 before taxes to AJ Stone, and that the fire chief be authorized to execute on behalf of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe all agreements and other documents necessary to implement this award. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, the fire chief's also up for the next one, to go through the tender results for the breathing air compressor fill station and air storage system. I'll turn it back over to you, Chief.
Thank you again, Mayor Clark. And again, on October 22nd, the meeting of council approved the pre-budget purchase of breathing air compressor fill station as part of the township's asset management plan. And as you know, the air compressor replacement was identified in the purchase with the new SCBA. The old compressor that we currently have would not be able to fill to the capacity with our new systems that we're going to. As a result, tender 2024-10 was issued with the online platform bids and tenders in collaboration with the Middlesex County Procurement Services on November 28th and closed on December 6th. Tenders were issued through the township procurement policy again. The lowest tender was submitted by Fire Check Protection Systems, Services of Sudbury. This company also offered the lowest semi-annual service to the unit. This service is provided by local services trucks that travel in our area. Based on the tenders received, the lowest tender was $52,374.35 before HST, with semi-annual services of $1,829.68 before HST. After receiving the breathing air compressor, it will be recommended to sell the surplus unit through auction on the Gov Deals when the time comes. Recommendation that the fire chief be authorized and directed to award the request for tender 2024-10 in the amount of $52,374.35 before taxes to Fire Check Protection Services. And the chief be authorized to execute on behalf of the township of Adelaide Metcalfe all agreements and other documents necessary to implement this award.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Any questions? Councillor Kingma?
Thank you. Through the mayor, I was just curious, what happens if the compressor breaks down? Is there a backup plan or is there never really a concern about that?
Again, we would probably reach out to our local neighboring departments. I know Strathroy has a great system there for filling air packs, air bottles, and as well as Watford. I've been told there we could always fill up as well there. So.
Okay, I won't read that recommendation. Dan's read the entire thing. So if there's no more questions, could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the 24-25 water and wastewater bylaw, and I'll turn it over to our treasurer, Johnny Rivera, to present that.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through to council, similar to the fees and charges report brought to council in December, this report outlines the associated fees for water and wastewater services for 2025 through the servicing agreement with Strathroy Caradoc. All rates in the attached bylaw are updated and provided annually by Strathroy Caradoc. The rates included there are about 1.5 times the rate of Strathroy for water, while wastewater charges are the same as those charged in Strathroy. The attached bylaw outlines all costs, which again are administered by Strathroy Caradoc. The recommendation is to approve the report as presented, but be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions? I know some of you reached out to Johnny before the meeting, got some answered, but are there any additional questions? Okay, seeing none then, we have a recommendation that the 2025 water and wastewater bylaw be approved as presented. Moved by Counselor Kingma, seconded by Counselor Brody. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next up, item 8E is the IESOLT2 RFP and wind turbines. And our CAO, Morgan Calvert, will present that, and he would love to explain the acronyms that I've just thrown at you there.
Just gonna ask Mike if he had an EIEIO out there. for us. So I apologize for all the acronyms. I can
That's
tell
what
you,
they are.
I can tell you some of the things that we know and a lot of things that we don't know when it comes to the IESO's procurement for new green energy in probably rural Ontario. What we know is they're looking for new energy capacity. We know that they're looking for a lot of it. We know that they have released a procurement opportunity or are working on releasing a procurement opportunity to purchase new energy production. We know that there is a developer in our particular area that spans a couple communities that are considering working with the community and council to bring a wind farm to our area. That being said, there's a lot of things that we don't know. We don't know what the community thinks about wind turbines. We do know the history of wind turbines in the community. We don't know what kind of revenue streams could potentially come from a project like this. We don't know where these wind turbines are going to go. We don't know much about the technology that will be used to create wind energy. So in saying that, council had an opportunity to receive a delegation by Venfor. Council asked a lot of great questions. Many of them are captured in this report. Today, I'm really just looking for some discussion or comments or questions from council over and above the list of 11 things that are identified in the report that I believe council needs. And I believe council believes it needs this information to make a decision on whether or not it wants to be a willing host to one of these procurement opportunities. So that being said, I might pause for a second. I can go through each of the questions, but I believe I've captured the majority of them that I've had discussions with you on and what were captured in the delegation. The other factor I wanted to chat about today is I know Brooke Alvinston is currently working with a legal counsel from Miller Thompson, who is highly qualified in energy in Ontario. I wouldn't mind some direction from council to collaborate or partner with Brooke Alvinston in terms of collecting some of this information. There are some efficiencies that could be found by working well with Brooke Alvinston. In that many of the agreements, from community benefits agreements to a road use agreement, there will be some similarities, but we also have our own individual needs as well. So there are some efficiencies from an administrative perspective, working with Brooke Alvinston and Miller Thompson to bring some of these pieces of information back to council. I know Venfor or the developer is willing to entertain these questions and provide council with as much information that they can provide so that council can make an informed decision. So really tonight, we're not declaring a willing host to any particular project. We're just saying that we need more information to make a decision. The community shouldn't pay for the impacts of development or new development in the community. So council is essentially saying, hey, Morgan, if council approves the recommendation tonight, work with Brooke Alvinston, find some efficiencies and some commonalities across this project area and bring back information that council needs to make an informed decision. So in saying that, happy to have any questions, comments, or otherwise, or I'm looking for council to approve the recommendation in the report.
Okay, and just to remind everybody or anybody that's watching online, the project that Venfor is proposing is actually in Brooke Alvinston and Adelaide Metcalfe. So I just wanted to say that. Any questions or comments from anybody? Councillor Kingma?
Yeah, through the mayor to Morgan. To what degree are we availing ourselves of Miller Thompson's expertise, and are we somehow obliged then to, pay for that expertise?
A good question, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Kingma. Brooke Alvinson's already retained the legal counsel of Miller Thompson. So we would essentially just piggyback that, current relationship. Anything that, is completed by Miller Thompson, if we choose to go that road, will be paid for by the developer. And that would be through the form of like a retainer agreement between, Miller Thompson and, Van for, where it's designed to provide information back to the municipality, but we're not actually paying for the legal counsel's review or advice or direction on these things.
Just on an slightly unrelated note, to what extent has Brooke Alvinston solicited community engagement?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure that they had to solicit it. At the one meeting. They had many people in attendance. But I think, I can't speak for them, but I would think that part of the process here is to have public engagement at some point in time before you even undertake to do this. Are you saying you would like the public engagement ahead of time to see if there's even an appetite for it? Would you clarify?
Sooner is better in that department. In Venfor's presentation, there was somewhat alluding to the need to hurry up a little bit. Not that we're being told what to do, but if we're going to appear to be forthright and cooperative and build legitimacy and so on and so forth, sooner is better.
It's a really good comment, because why spend money on a potential project that may not proceed based on community engagement? Through the ISO's procurement process, there is a requirement for the municipality, if it chooses to declare it as will imposed, that the municipality or council believes that there's been appropriate community engagement. There's a few pieces of information that if I was a community through some form of engagement session, I would want to know who, what, where, when, how, what are the benefits? Are there potential health risks of these types of scenarios, where we can slide that community engagement component into somewhere along these questions where we have more of those answers, because we might just get more questions without being able to provide a tangible response to one of those business case questions. So if council chooses to move forward this evening with the recommendation of this report, I'll certainly look at where we can get some preliminary information and bring forward a community engagement session, working with the developer to make sure that they're actually receiving information that they can consume and understand and provide feedback on. Does that make sense?
I don't know for certain because I can't remember, but did he say he had 11 or 13? But he needs 25 landowners in Adelaide Metcalfe. I think
He
that,
said he had 14 and he needs 20 in this township.
oh, okay. So
And
he's
like-
short, yeah,
And the same for Brooke Alvinston.
yeah, so they're short. Yeah, and we've not, for anybody watching, because I did have a ratepayer reach out to me, we've not seen a map. We have no information other than the pie in the sky at this point. We need answers to those questions that Morgan mentioned, so. Councillor Brody?
Through Sue to Morgan and to council. I don't mind this idea. Basically, right now, there's no cost to us. You got one company, this Miller Thompson, who would represent both of us. I don't see why two neighboring municipalities shouldn't work together on something like this. And as far as I understand, the bulk of the project would be in Brooke Alvinston regardless. So I don't really see a problem with us piggybacking with them and being involved in their meetings and that kind of stuff. Really, there's no cost here right now at this point.
Well, there's just a little bit of staff time, but if the more that can be offloaded, and somebody else paying the bill, that's, yeah.
We'll still get an Adelaide Metcalfe made solution. Um,
Yeah, because the common taxpayer shouldn't be paying for this, so, yeah. Okay, Counselor Kingma, follow up?
Yeah, another question again. Has the Ministry of the Environment changed its parameters at all on noise and setbacks?
It's a good question I'd have to bring back. It's not something that I would have at my fingertips.
Just saying because they're larger installations, higher, et cetera. So existing policy might be lacking in theory. I can't prove it.
Yeah, it's a great comment. And that's where, some of the questions are, what is the size of the wind turbines? What are some of the policies or approval mechanisms that need to exist that wrap around this? And that's really where, Miller Thompson would be able to support the needs of a community like Adelaide Metcalfe or Brooke Galveston in responding to that particular question.
Speaks to the number 4, how will the municipality ensure the appropriate review of any technical information? So peer reviews, engineering, environmental planning, I think those speak to that question of yours, Councillor Kingma. Okay, any other comments, questions? Councillor Brody?
Through Sue to Morgan. So what did they propose to you? Like maybe yourself or just a staff member, or what are they basically saying to piggyback together, or have any really?
So I've been talking to the administrator over Brooke Galveston. She's being the one working with Miller Thompson. There was no certainty out of Adelaide Metcalfe until we've had this discussion tonight. So I haven't had a direct conversation with the gentleman at Miller Thompson, just working through Brooke Galveston. So once I receive direction from council this evening, then I'll have those conversations. From what I understand, it comes in generally the form of a retainer agreement between Benfor and Miller Thompson and Brooke Galveston to make sure that this information is brought back in a timely manner and worked on and developed and paid for.
And I'm assuming that Venfor has their own lawyer.
It wouldn't be Miller Thompson.
Exactly. I just thought I'd state the obvious in case somebody's thinking otherwise. Okay, seeing no more questions or comments, we have a recommendation that council direct the CAO to partner with Brooke Galveston to compile the necessary information required by council to make an informed decision regarding whether or not the township wishes to be a host to any particular project through the IESO procurement process. Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is the Community Improvement Plan, or sometimes referred to as a SIP, an annual review and the 2025 program launch, and I'll turn this over again to our CAO, Morgan Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to council. I try to keep this report generally the same. It tends to be somewhat long. But last year we didn't have any what's the word I'm looking for? Completed applications to be delivered to council for consideration. We did use an open intake, first in, first out type of system last year after a little bit of discussion with council earlier in the year. It did allow for some application ideas to come forward at random times, but it didn't result in a completed application. We were really close just before the new year, but unfortunately the applicant wasn't able to complete their application. They had other priorities, which makes sense. Through the discussions, there was a little bit of feedback about industrial tax incentivization programs, about the conversion and redevelopment program that wasn't activated in 2024. So in saying that, really recommending to council this evening that we activate that redevelopment and conversion program, because it seems to be a program that might be more useful for some businesses in the township. We did have another potential application that was looking to erect an awning on a residential property to support some summer day camp, swim lessons, that kind of stuff. And although as much as we like to support our youth doing innovative things in the township, this just isn't the program for that type of outcome. So in saying that, I'm really just looking, and then in terms of the program availability, so we talked about the open intake last year. It was somewhat random and somewhat chaotic throughout the year. Why don't we try to squish that timeline a little bit and create a little bit more certainty and at least administration's ability to process these applications. And then it gives council the ability to see potentially more than one application where you folks can allocate money where you see fit if the program doesn't support all applications. If we don't see any applications within that deadline driven model, council will have a report at the end of the day to talk about what we could do to potentially see the program successful in 2025. But we can leave that discussion for council to consider at the end of, I think it was March, potentially April 30th. In terms of program activation, I'd like to roll with the same programs that we had last year, but include the conversion redevelopment program, just because we received a little bit of feedback that might support a successful application or two this year. And then it just shows that we're being responsive in terms of our grant programs and what the community's needs are. Beyond that, the only other note, it's the same note as last year. Middlesex County is looking to have their CIP implementation program available again this year. I think it's pending budget approval, essentially where they'll fund 50% of the municipal contribution of a CIP awarded application. So that's good news because money gets to go a little bit further, but we're waiting to see if that program's available. In saying that, happy to have any questions or comments, discussion from council. Otherwise, the recommendations in the report.
Okay, any comments or questions regarding the SIP for Morgan? Councillor Kingma?
Through the mayor to Morgan, this is a great, good improvement. I like the deadline in that it will hopefully trigger some action so that people aren't procrastinating. That's a step up. In the interests of continuous improvement, I do have a suggestion for 2026, and this is where it gets a little dicey for council, I imagine, but I do want the KIP area to be local to Center Road. I don't think it should be a township-wide program. I think when we distribute government largesse, it has to be surgically targeted to maximize the impact. That's what stewardly distribution of funds looks like in my books. Those are long-standing businesses that are likely to be around for a long time yet. So we're throwing money at things that are going to be viable. So that's my take on it. It also happens to be a gateway for our neighboring municipality, and we have an obligation. We're obliged in some fashion to demonstrate that we have the desire to show continuity of features in that area, and this program could help deliver that. It also is an avenue for building relationships with those businesses. We can demonstrate that we're really focused on this crown jewel of our assessment base. And I think if it's okay with council, I'd like Morgan to tell us in some fashion, whether it's a formal report or not, it's up to Morgan essentially, what changes would all have to take place in order to deliver a more targeted KIP.
Okay, that's a good takeaway. Any other comments? Councillor Nordhoff?
I'll have to disagree with Councillor Kingma because these are funds that are put together, collected by all of the township, not just Center Road. So if there is an opportunity for something elsewhere in the township, we should look at that as well. Whether we go with it or not, that's another thing, but I don't want to target a certain area. I don't think that's fair.
That's a good comment as well. Any further comments? Okay. Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that council activate the countryside facade and signage, site beautification, accessibility and conversion, expansion and redevelopment programs for the 2025 SIP program. And further, that council direct staff to launch the 2025 Community Improvement Plan program. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Brody, seconded by Councilor McKinnon. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, is there any other business? Councilor Kingma?
Couple of comments. I want to acknowledge the passing of a couple of longtime farmers from our township, Evan Perry and Keith Wilson. Gentlemen like that are the backbone of our community and society, generally speaking, given that they've given their lives to the building up of this community. So I just want to extend my condolences to those families.
Okay, thank you. They were both good farmers in our community, that's for sure. On another note, a happier note, I'd like to thank Basil and Jeanette Martin for looking after the ice rink in the Kerwood Park. Last week it was open, and then I think it might have been closed on Sunday when it started to warm up. But I'm thinking with the -19 tonight, we should be in good shape tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get a few more days out of it, like longer than we did last year. So I hope people are thinking about using it. On another note, I had the honor of attending, and Councillor Nordoff was there as well, the annual firefighter awards evening, I guess I'll call it that. And there was two takeaways that I had from Saturday night. I was so thrilled to see we were giving certificates out to people that were 25 years, 30, 35 years, and Jeff Brooks 40 years. And that's some dedication to our community. And the second thing, I was impressed with how many volunteer junior firefighters we have. Like, it's such an awesome, like, how many do you have now? Is it like 7 or something? Or 8? 8, yeah, like I don't think we've ever had that before, so that's awesome. Hopefully we can keep them involved and grow the program. Any other business from anybody? Councillor Kingma?
Just wanted to mention too that the county has a survey out right now concerning their strategic plans. So if any of our fellow citizens would like to weigh in on where they think the county's priorities should lie, they should fill in that survey and also maybe comment on the quality or lack thereof of county programs. So feel free to indicate your preferences.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? All right, seeing none, we have a recommendation that bylaw 1 of 2025, water and wastewater charges, and bylaw 2 of 2025, confirming January 13th, 2025, receive first, second, third, and final readings. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All in favor, and that's carried. We have a recommendation that this meeting be adjourned at 7:39 p.m. Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All in favor, and that's carried.